All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of Market Movers here with Justin Perri. Justin, good morning. I guess it's afternoon in New York, right? Afternoon?
Yeah,
12:30?
it's 12:30 p.m. over here in New York City. It's a gorgeous day and a gorgeous day to make some money.
Definitely a gorgeous day to make some money. A much more normal slate, as I've got the video playing in the background once
That's
again.
what I did yesterday.
It's so hard to not do that. All right, let's dig into the slate. Like I said, it's a much more normal slate. I believe we have 15 games throughout the entire day, right?
Yeah.
3 more non-traditional start times. Early start time in San Francisco, 3:45. The Cubs and the Indians game's going to start at 5:10 Central Time, 6:10 Eastern, and then the Reds and Pirates. Those are going to be the 3 non-traditional times if you're used to playing daily fantasy. Be down to a 12-game slate.
Yep.
Let's start with the first game on the slate, the Texas Rangers, San Francisco Giants. Any thoughts here? Have you seen any big movements on this one yet?
This one's actually been a little steady. You'll see that it opened at minus 160 on a couple books, but it really wasn't there for very long. It got moved very quick. So most people did not have a chance to play anything at that line. It's been closer to like minus 125 all morning. Really nothing jumping around there too much.
Let me see on that. What'd you say the price was?
I mean, right now I'm seeing minus 125 on a couple different books. I have the best price.
At William Hill right now, the Giants are minus 145.
Oh, interesting. It's giving me the best price. That's why. Okay. Right. No, you're right. DraftKings has it at minus 160, BetMGM minus 155, FanDuel minus 170, PointsBet minus 160 as well. So yeah, it is really at that minus 160 level. So it was at around minus 130, minus 140 this morning from what I'm seeing. So people, that means, have been piling money onto the Giants here today.
Yeah, definitely seeing money coming in on the Giants. Afternoon start time, definitely going to play just a little bit different there. Yeah. I definitely do not have a play on the game. I think you might, but I don't have a side here in mind that I like. They're seeing quite a bit of movement on it, though. I don't know if some of that's public action on just being the first game of the day, a little bit of an afternoon start time as well.
Yeah, we actually saw, which is always fun. We saw the under that I took at 8 this morning. It moved to 8.5. But I still like it. Obviously, at 8.5, I did hit it again because I'm going to take my win at 8 if I get there instead of just a push. But sometimes the market does move against what you think it's going to happen. But I do like the under there. I don't really think that the Rangers are going to hit the ball. They didn't hit the ball yesterday. They got like 6 hits. They didn't have a single inning with more than 1 hit. The Giants pitching staff made work of them, and I think they sit them down again today. They probably bounce back a little bit better tomorrow once they're, more used to playing in San Francisco.
Yeah, definitely right there with you on that one. I lean towards the under as well. I have this one at about 7.9 runs. So at 8, I wouldn't have had it at 8.5. Definitely would be a lean or around a quarter unit play for me on this one. So right there with you on it.
We always talk about the VMI, and this is a good spot to take advantage of it. When you have a team like Texas who plays at home in Texas and then is going to go to the coastal air in San Francisco, you are going to see differences. So, we like to maybe bet against the team that sees those differences because they have to adapt and get used to it. So that's kind of where I am in saying that, the Rangers aren't going to score that much, and then most likely the Giants aren't going to take this thing themselves. So I like the edge that I have there on this play.
Definitely. Let's quickly, before we move to the next game, we'll kind of talk. I want to talk a lot about trying to get people to think in terms of percentages and win probability. So let's say this line, I'm basically going to call it minus 150 is where this game is. So what does that 150 implied mean? It means that the Giants have an implied win probability of 60%, essentially, at this point. The juice on both sides of the game. But if you think of a line at minus 150, it has a 60% chance of winning and a 40% chance of losing. And I think a lot of people don't understand the probability of it. So we give out a play that I like maybe at, say, minus 120, right? Mm-hmm. Minus 120, I'm still telling you that I think they're going to lose 45% of the time.
Yeah.
Like if that's the line I make on the game. So like the game is an even money line. My simulation line is minus 120 and we're going to bet it. Even though we're betting it, we're still predicting that team is going to lose 45% of the time.
Right. I think it's definitely important for everyone to understand, especially if you're newer to betting or newer to trying to approach things in the way that you or I approach it. Being able to understand where the percents are, which, I find make a lot more sense to like the human brain than the American odds system. You can almost see a pie chart, right? And then when someone tells you, oh, they're minus 143, it doesn't necessarily click in your brain as much. So being able to get comfortable going back and forth between these two methods of evaluating odds is definitely important.
Definitely important. And if you want to, obviously you can all do it. The math is actually relatively simple. You don't have to, though. We have a betting calculator on Sportsline, very easy to use over there. You can transfer or translate everything back and forth with all the different odds. But I personally recommend thinking of everything in terms of obviously probabilities and a distribution, but the implied probability in terms of a percent is going to be the way where you're going to learn the most. So that's what I recommend doing. I try to talk about it on the early edge. I will try to give everything here in terms of percent to hammer that home, that I think it's really important that you guys understand the percentages and the probabilities here. All right, let's look at the next game. Chicago Cubs on the road against the Cleveland Indians. Shane Bieber on the mound. This one, I think we've seen just a touch of movement here, sitting at plus 170 for the Cubs, minus 190 for the Indians at William Hill. I got this one this morning at plus 165. It is a full play for me. I definitely think I'm lower on Shane Bieber than really the market as a whole. Curious if you have any thoughts on this game, and then after that, I'll kind of explain what I'm looking at that's led me to that.
Sure. I didn't really have any thoughts on the game aside from maybe agreeing with you that the Cubs were a little bit, priced a little too well. I saw this actually move towards the Indians for a minute this morning. I think I was able to grab it at like almost plus 180 on a local book. I mean, it's at like plus 170 on a couple now. I'm seeing definitely closer to sitting around 165, 170 across most books. But, I didn't really have a play. I know a lot of people are going to be behind the hot pitcher. And when that happens, when you have like a public, gravitating towards a hot guy, there is usually going to be value on the other side.
Yeah, definitely. Bieber is most definitely the ace here. However, as I pointed out on the early edge this morning, I do have some concerns with the amount of hard contact that he's allowing. 43% hard contact rate. He's actually given up several balls over 95 miles per hour exit velocity, an alarming number for someone who you would consider to be an ace and one of the top pitchers in Major League Baseball. So I like the Cubs here. They're getting out of Wrigley. The weather, it's not going to be a great hitting environment overall. However, you do give this team a designated hitter instead of the pitcher hitting. Anytime you get a league shift like that, it's usually going to be meaningful. So I like the spot for him. I do see this one trending towards the under as well. I think it should be a very competitive game. But as long as the Cubs can put the ball in play, I think that they can generate enough. I have great value on the game, essentially. So I have them winning 42% of the time. The market, when I was betting it, implied 37. Implying around 36.5 right now. So I like the edge on it personally. I just have a few concerns with Shane Bieber. But is it going to surprise me if Bieber pitches a shutout with 12 strikeouts? Absolutely not.
No. I mean, like you were just saying, when any expert recommends a positive line, you do need to expect it to lose. It is expected to lose. That is, at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is that when you take a line that's going to return your money and then some, it's not because you're taking an easy bet. And, we always do try to find value on these things that maybe the wrong side is favored. But, even if we see value on a side like the Cubs at plus 160, plus 170, we're only seeing like, 10, 15, max 20 cents before it starts to get a little ridiculous for us. So, we're not saying, oh, they should be favored. We're saying, you run this a bunch of times, we think that over the long haul, you're going to make money taking them at this price.
Definitely. And that's another point too. If you're out there trying to build models, trying to do things like that, while it's awesome when you find a 20 cent edge. They're not an every single day occurrence. 10-cent edge is actually a very meaningful edge in Major League Baseball. If you're routinely finding yourself having 60, 70-cent edges, you definitely need to reevaluate the process there, as the market is most definitely not that inefficient. But definitely a good thing to get into. And again, start thinking in terms of percent, and you will learn a lot very, very quickly. Next game on the slate, Reds on the road still at the Pirates. Reds put up 2 touchdowns last night. Definitely beat the Pirates there. I was showing a tiny bit of value on the Pirates late. However, that was one situation where there's a very different story when you have value on a game and you're beating the market on price. It's a different story altogether when the line moves 25 cents, and then that's what pushes it into a value bet territory for you. I ultimately held off. Model wanted me to bet about 0.3 of a unit on the Pirates last night. How do you, if at all, look or handle situations where you have extreme movement, like we saw yesterday, over 20 cents in the Reds' favor, where likely puts value play on the Pirates? Do you go ahead and bet that? Do you not? Is it case by case? Do you have a hard rule or not?
I try to keep the hard rule of not betting something that goes against what my models say in the market so strongly. There's usually a reason, and I will do my best to try to find that reason. So, and then, from there, I try to see if I disagree or agree with why it's moving. And if I don't agree with why the movement has occurred, I will consider playing it at a small level. But other than that, again, it's just sort of asking for trouble. Usually markets move late in response to lineup cards coming out, pitchers, someone hearing something about a pitcher, or injury related. It's usually never a good idea to see something at the end of the day that's moved 20 cents towards your model's favor and being like, oh man, I can't ignore that. Well, you 9 times out of 10, I feel like you should.
Right. No, it makes a ton of sense. Like I said, for me personally, I ended up laying off. If it's something where I didn't have a play in the morning, the market moved 20 cents the other way, I'll consider playing a quarter unit on it if I run through everything and it looks good in the model. But for better or worse, and it's not saying I don't trust my model or my numbers, it's just one of those that there's obviously very strong signals on the other side. So I'll trust it enough to usually throw a quarter unit on it, which is roughly just kind of my rule at that point, but definitely not making a full play.
Yeah, I go around 0.3 for those types of plays myself. So we do have a similar philosophy there. It's with, your models, and you talked about it a little bit before, you want your model to be as tight to the market as possible. That's a successful model. A model that routinely spits out edges on every game isn't doing you any favors. You want your models at expected, I guess the way to say it, the expected result to be as real and close to what is actually going to happen in the game as possible. If your model gets every score right and you weren't able to place a bet, you killed it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad you said that. It's a lot of people don't realize that, but that's a very factual statement. It's why, frankly, some days you see one play.
Yeah.
Some days other days we might have 5 plays. It literally is. It's just going to depend on where the market is, but it's absolutely unrealistic to think that your model should be spitting out 7, 8 plays a day. It's just not reality. If it is, you need to readjust for sure.
Seriously, readjust.
Yes. Next game, Phillies on the road at the Nationals. Phillies look like they're about, I'll use William Hill odds since I've got it pulled up here. Phillies plus 120, Nationals minus 130 in this one. It's going to be Chase Anderson versus Fetty. Is that how you say his name? I don't even know how to pronounce the guy's name.
I don't know either.
Any thoughts on this one?
Nothing too crazy here. I know the sharp side is the Nationals today. I think I agree with that. I know that, in terms of where the public money is coming in, it's pretty close. Phillies have been pretty good. I think this game probably goes over if I have to put money on that. I do actually think, I'm looking now, this has been at 9 all day. The over hasn't really moved. The money has been coming in towards Washington from what I'm seeing steadily, maybe about 10, 15 cents max on some books. I think, that's agreeable. And this is one of those scenarios where, like, we get back right to what we were saying. Like, your model, you probably want your model to have an advantage on this early in the morning, because, if you wait, you're not going to get your money's worth.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think the reason we're seeing the buying on the Washington side is obviously Chase Anderson. You look at some of his numbers throughout the career. Really, he's been someone I picked on in daily fantasy for, half a decade now at this point. So something that stands out about him too, just glancing quickly at the expected numbers from StatCast. He's had an actual weighted on base average 338. That's going to be slightly below league average at this point. 382 is the expected number. The expected slugging percentage above 500. Not good. I can tell you from the fact that when I send in some of my daily fantasy data in the morning, guys, the lefties, Juan Soto, Josh Bell, I think that it's going to be a real problem. I also think that the Nationals are going to be able to run on him on the base paths with Trey Turner and Juan Soto. I think they're going to be incredibly aggressive doing that in this game. So look for that to be standing out, but that's why I don't have a play on the game. Certainly really no interest in it outside of daily fantasy.
I think, you probably want to stay away from the Phillies in daily fantasy, especially. I'm seeing a pretty terrible VMI number on them. We're seeing around -8 and a 70 air density, according to what I'm seeing on our favorite site, Daily Baseball Data, which, I definitely recommend using. We'll talk about that more, I'm sure, in episodes to come. Maybe even share a link. But, -8 VMI coming up from Atlanta, playing a 3-game series there, and then, having been at home and now going to the Washington Park. So again, you might very well see them missing tonight. Does that mean that you might want to think about a strikeout prop or maybe like a team total under potentially? But, this is all things that I'm sort of starting to track more and more now. So I'll sort of have model edges on these things in a couple of weeks. So very excited about that. Yes,
definitely love that. I see some comments on YouTube about potentially taking the over there and first 5 bets. Look, it's a classic example of like, do I think the Nationals will win the game? Yes, I do. If you ask me who I think is going to win the game, the Nationals should win the game. The model's not going to tell me there's a large enough edge. I bet with the model. If you're someone betting with your heart, the Nationals should win this game, right? As far as taking the over, I would say it's relatively a friendly environment overall in terms of pitching, as is kind of indicated by the VMI, but especially for the Phillies side. But they can absolutely get there. Chase Anderson can blow up in a hurry for sure.
What's the over-under on my Wi-Fi, guys?
Over-under on the Wi-Fi. I think it's a lot better today, personally.
Hopefully. I'll definitely be working on getting a nicer service, but we're hardwired in. We are, hopefully the audio doesn't cut out. If I go a little fuzzy, you guys can live. So.
All right, next game. Oakland A's on the road against the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox let us down in a big way last night, stranded some key runners on bases at times. Martin Perez was actually pretty good overall, outside of the 1 home run that he gave up early. But I have a play on this game, already given it on the early edge. We'll talk about it again in a minute. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
I did not make a play on this game myself. I don't necessarily, have a great feeling on either side. This is, not to make a terrible joke, but the A's and the B's of the American League, right? We have probably 2 of the strongest teams that have been playing all year. The Athletics had an incredible run. Boston is the tops of the tops in terms of hitting and had a bad day yesterday. So I do, eye test probably says Boston bounces back at home. Fenway is their favorite place to hit. Eovaldi, also looking for a good performance himself. I think that Boston is probably the play. I know Sharpside is coming in as Athletics, but again, I couldn't really make a choice here if I had to.
Yeah, I haven't. I thought we might see just a touch of buying on Boston here. It looks like it's held steady in the market for the most part. Let me see where it's at here. I guess Boston opened at -135. I did not even see that open. For me, it opened -125, which is where I bet it. The consensus line is around -130 right now. I would expect it to be closer to -140. It's sounds crazy to say, but it is such a public team too, with a lot of attention on Red Sox. didn't lose 4-1 last night or 3-1, whatever the final score was. They put up 1 run, right, on the road at Baltimore. If they had won that game, covered the run line, I think this line is minimum 140 right now at this point, literally after just one game.
Yeah.
They're the best offense in Major League Baseball, for sure. Recency bias is most definitely a thing in every aspect of life, but very much true in Major League Baseball. So these two pitchers have been excellent, right? Both of them have been really good. However, my concern with Bassett is he's pitched in an incredibly friendly environment overall. The Coliseum in Oakland, where he's pitched a few of his games, obviously is one of the best pitching environments in baseball. A lot of foul ground leads to a lot of extra outs, gets you out of a lot of jams in that situation. He pitched on the road against Tampa Bay. That's another very friendly environment. Had a game against a National League team with the roof closed in Arizona. And obviously is a league shift where he's facing a designated hitter. This will be his toughest test to date, and maybe one of the tougher tests of the season, excluding the hitting environment as it comes to the weather. But I like Eovaldi here. I like the way the Red Sox stack up. Again, I think you're getting a lot of value because the Red Sox dropped that game last night. The other thing that's been talked about yet that I think is a meaningful thing, which is weird which players will have an impact on the betting market and the line. Ramon Laureano, one of their best defensive players and really a realistic threat at the plate for them, especially in this ballpark. He is questionable to play in this game tonight. I love the Red Sox here again.
Yep, let's do it. I'm with you. I really think that it's going to be hard for, the Angels to really pull this out, especially if the Boston Bats perform anything like their average, which, they just didn't last night, and you're probably getting value because people are like, uh-oh, maybe they're not as good as we thought, but they are. Don't worry.
Yep. No, in terms of expected data, they are definitely still the best offense. Yeah. All right. Another fun series, especially for the New Yorker in you. The New York Yankees on the road against the Tampa Bay Rays. Yankees minus 120 with Montgomery on the mound. Patino on the mound for the Rays. Any thoughts, any movement? I know you always have thoughts about the Yankees.
Yeah, I'm a Yankees homer. This is going to be an interesting test for Jordan Montgomery going down there. I do like the Yankees today. I'm trying to remove my home bias, but it's actually more about Tampa Bay and how their hitting has been. They haven't, really been all that. They've been better on the road too. So I'm really excited to see if maybe the Yankees can pull a game or two off of them here. I probably like the under tonight. I feel like there's a lot of money on it for a reason. It looks like it's the sharp side as well. I don't see this being a huge run-scoring affair, and both teams come with top-notch bullpens that are ready to be used for this series. So I think it's a classic Rays-Yankees game where it's a little boring, a little slow. They both know each other. I'd probably take the under, and after that, I definitely don't have a play on the money line. It's a little too close.
Yeah, I would mostly agree with that sentiment that you have there. So the thing that we love for New York Yankees pitching in general is getting out of Yankee Stadium, right? So this is a really significant park shift for them. Also, the Tampa Bay Rays have quietly been awful against left-handed pitching. I've talked about many times. We all know how bad the Detroit Tigers are against left-handed pitching, 35.2% strikeout rate. The second worst team with the second highest strikeout rate against left-handed pitching is the Tampa Bay Rays so far, striking out almost 32% of the time against left-handed pitching. Weighted on base average is only 290. ISO is very weak. Slugging is very weak, only 360 on the slugging there. This is a good spot for Montgomery to get right. This is what he needs. He needs to start in this friendly pitching environment overall. The Rays have been awful against left-handed pitching. I also do not have a play on the game. The trouble with the New York Yankees, especially when you are modeling, is very rarely are you going to get to show value because they are such a public team with the name. There's a good 2.5% baked into every line. Just unfortunately the way it goes for the most part. You do get spots where they're facing aces where it can work out in your favor. But overall, as much as I love the Yankees, think they should win, I think the line is relatively efficient, even when we know that line is inflated. So that tells you that we do like the Yankees. The model likes the Yankees. Unfortunately, everyone likes the Yankees, which inflates the market.
the moment the Yankees start to get favored, you sort of run into some trouble. And even the moment that they're the underdogs, you're not going to get the value that you would on equal teams, equal players, in the same conditions. Just you literally throw the pinstripes on, and the bet lines get worse. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Next one I know is going to be fun. Everyone wants to talk about this one just a little bit. John Means on the mound again for the Orioles, taking on the Mets. This is a road start for him. However, the good news about a road start is it's not going to be a worse hitting environment or worse pitching environment. And he goes to the league shift, will not have to face the designated hitter that he's used to facing in the American League. What are your thoughts here?
City is like one of the worst home run parks in the league this year. So, that's got to be lighting up the fire in Means' eyes. One of the worst for run production. I'm not 100% sure if that's just because the Mets play there and they just really haven't had the best, scoring potential. They've been leaving so many people on base. But you even look at like the hits factors and Citi Field is low. You're talking about just a pretty nice pitching environment. Most people fade pitchers coming off of a no-hitter, coming off of a performance like that. I couldn't pull the trigger on the Mets. I just couldn't. I think if anything, I'd probably go right back to Means because his approach, his pitching, his control, everything that he's shown all year has been repeatable. Last performance didn't look like this incredibly spectacular out of the blue. It was just another day of work for him. So yeah, I don't know, plus line on this guy, you're probably going to want to bet him the entire year. Why not?
Yeah, it's one that I would maybe consider. I have no play on the game, frankly. I think it's very efficient at this point still. If I were to just use my head and try and make a bet on the game, it might even be a first 5-inning bet with them, with the Orioles. So I do have major concerns. The Orioles are going to be an incredibly high variance team right now. They are legitimate against left-handed pitching. They are legitimately awful against right-handed pitching. And they've got a few pitchers that are pitching really well. The bullpen has been relatively solid as of late. But it's going to make them a very high variance team. Like the splits between left versus right-handed starting pitching is really quite large for them. Against righties, 281 weighted on base average, hitting for virtually no power, striking out 25% of the time. It's a very, very stark contrast from their numbers against left-handed pitching. So that would be my only concern, knowing that they lose the designated hitter in a worse overall hitting environment. If anything, I would potentially look to the under here as well.
Yeah, that line is pretty low. You only got 6.5 runs right now. I want to check and see if it opened there. I do think it did. One moment, I'm just pulling up the data. My Wi-Fi might be cutting out right now as we do this because I can't seem to load it. But all right, let's not worry about it too much. I have heard that the Orioles, though, are one of the best teams in terms of not striking out over the last couple of weeks. So Stroman could have his hands full today. And, again, we don't know which team's going to show up for the Orioles, but I think Means gets his win.
Yeah, no, that's definitely where I would be leaning. I would be leaning towards Means and the under on both sides. But overall, I'm expecting a very friendly pitching environment for both sides. I think that my major concern is the Baltimore offense as well. So that's where I would be, likely first 5 on either side. But as of now, I have 0 plays on the game. It
did actually move down from 7 to 6.5. So that line is probably still coming down. The total looks like at 6.5, though, it looks like 68% is going to be on the over. So again, I'm staying away on all of that. It was a little too tough for me to handicap it or even find an edge. And usually I like to be able to do both. I like, the handicapping sense, the experience of watching all the games every day to work with the model. Because, I could play every model edge, but it wouldn't work every single time. I'm not at your level yet where I just let the computer do the thinking, but we'll get there.
We'll get there. And I do watch the games and make the adjustments to the model. Right. I talked about it on Twitter a little bit today with some of the questions I had. The biggest question I had was basically, what kind of sample size am I using? And how do I weight recent data? And the answer is with recent data, I weight it on a case-by-case basis every morning. I'm up at 5:30, 6 a.m., trying to get the opening lines. That's when I'm putting in numbers tweaking numbers at an absolutely ridiculous level, to be honest, but trying to be as accurate as possible.
People don't realize that, sports betting, you want to be a professional handicapper, you're up early, you're hitting the lines, you got to get there first. It is a game of advantage. So whatever you can really make for yourself and figure out a way to get ahead of the competition, like even if it's waking up nice and early, I have the advantage of that extra hour. I get to wake up, the sun's not as far down yet, but you got to do what you got to do.
Absolutely. All right, next one. Kansas City Royals on the road against the Detroit Tigers. Brady Singer, absolute stud on the mound for the Kansas City Royals. Matthew Boyd for the Tigers. Royals currently sitting at minus 120. I know you'll have some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I'm taking the Royals. I know that they've been bad. They really have. They haven't won any of their last 5 games. They looked just atrocious against the White Sox. But if you dive into their numbers, for whatever reason, they've been just bad at home. The hitters are much worse at home. The pitchers are worse at home. And then all of a sudden, you get on the road and the pitchers are just – I think it's really the pitching, honestly, when it comes down to it. The pitchers are so much more lights out on the road. Their team ERA split is just crazy. And I don't always love to just sort of go on like hitting splits and pitching splits, but, you play at this park and, this is a hitter's park in Kansas City. And you know that. You're a Kansas City guy. It's a hitter's park. So, they're going over to Commercia. I think that Singer is going to get it done. Tigers, probably the only team that haven't been that good either. So this is a big matchup. They need to beat the Tigers. This is a division rivalry. I think the Royals right the ship and get this done.
Yeah, I agree with you here. It's moving to the point, like I said, we're seeing some buying on Matthew Boyd, which is a little interesting to me. It's pushing up to the point where I'm very close to having a play on the Kansas City run line. If that number touches 150, it's plus 140 now on the run line. If it touches 150, that'll be one that I will have the play where we're obviously on the road team getting the guaranteed 9th inning from them against that Detroit bullpen. That's something that's significant.
That was a plus 120 earlier. That is really moving.
Yeah. Like I said, we're seeing a lot of movement there. Singer was hot and emotional in his last start, had some really rough calls at home plate umpire there. Personally, I think he's fine. I love this spot for him. It's just a matter of the Royals offense. So one thing I'll point out against Matthew Boyd, anyone who watches the early edge, again, I harp on expected data, especially kind of early in the season, because it helps you not overreact to what you've seen, right? And what you've watched. So Matthew Boyd, his actual weighted on base average is only 243, making him one of the best starting pitchers in Major League Baseball. However, if you look at the delta between that and his expected number is 303, which is still going to be one of the average but really good starting pitchers, as is Brady Singer. The pitching is relatively even there. The Royals are a much better team than the Tigers. But to have a delta that big, over 60 points still at this point in the season, still indicates that he's been quite lucky. You expect those numbers to move to within 20 to 25 points, after the 3rd to 4th start of the season. It hasn't done that yet. I think this is a great spot for the Royals. I love that we're getting buyback on the Tigers side. I get it. Singer is young. It's a road start. Boyd has that number that looks very attractive if you're looking at data. I like the Royals here in this spot. And like I said, it's at plus 140 now. Might pull the trigger on it. It'd be about 0.4 to half a unit play at this point. Yeah. I would play almost a full unit on it if I get plus 150 on the run line.
Right. And just to make sure everyone who's watching understands, Mike is talking about playing the run line at the value because it just keeps getting better. I wouldn't advise going in on Kansas City at the price that it's at now. I was very happy to get it around 120 this morning. And, when I see a line moving, which is essentially, right, the market supporting the bet you've made, when a line gets steeper after you played it, it's called getting closing line value, right? So, you could argue that if it's sitting at, the way it works, if it's at 125 now, you played at 120, you get 5 cents of closing line value. Pretty straightforward. But some people can get encouraged by seeing that closing line value and like, oh, well, maybe I should redouble down or I should put another unit or sprinkle another play. And I don't usually advise on that. Like, take your win, right? Your closing line value at the end of the day, at the end of a long season, is probably a bigger win than any single result at the end of the day. So, don't go chasing value just because the market happens to agree with you one morning. Take your value and play the game and see what happens with it.
Absolutely. Definitely do not recommend chasing the steam unless you just want to win one game and talk about it on Twitter. If you want to do that, I think it's a great strategy. Go for it. But I know we are here trying to win over the long term and win and bet consistently, because when you do, it's a hell of a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but a lot of fun as well. I'm seeing the Royals game at -120 again. I've seen it as at 120 up to 135 at 120. I think there are pretty strong opinions on both sides of this one. And that's something that I personally am okay with. Just going to watch that number, likely end up with a run line play on it. All right. We'll quickly move.
Yeah, I just saw it shoot 120.
Yeah. No, it's there's definitely action coming in on both sides of that one. Next game, Toronto Blue Jays, Robbie Ray on the mound against Bryce Wilson for the Atlanta Braves. Braves are +111 at home. Any thoughts on this one?
I mean, Robbie Ray is going to be hard for me to bet behind personally. I think I saw a metric from Pitcher List's Alex Fast about like the pitchers who have thrown the most like fastballs down the middle, and he like leads them. And then, some of these guys you wouldn't expect to see on the list, but it's how you throw a fastball down the middle. And the way he's throwing it, they're hitting it. So, look, this Braves offense at Truist is just a problem. They've shown it again and again. It's one of the best parks to play an over at. I believe it's only lost like 2 or 3 times out of the 15 or 16 games that they've played there. Runs are going to be scored. And I stayed away. I'd probably lean on the plus money if I had to. I definitely would take the over. It looks like both of my opinions are not the sharp side, but that doesn't really bother me too much. It's going to be an interesting one. No play for me, but I think high scoring at the end of the day.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. Look, part of me wants to play Atlanta at this point. The reason why we see the market where it is, Atlanta's been absolutely miserable against left-handed pitching, which at the heart of it really makes absolutely no sense when you look at the lineup. Obviously, they have the lefty Freddie Freeman in there, but Ronald Acuna Jr. and Marcell Ozuna have crushed left-handed pitching in their careers. Austin Riley hits left-handed pitching well. Dansby Swanson, certainly going to be at least average or better against left-handed pitching. I mean, anyone should be with the platoon advantage, right? Yeah. This lineup is actually set up and built to hit left-handed pitching really, really well. Ozzie Albies, switch hitter in the middle of that lineup, going to be hitting cleanup most likely. I do not expect this trend to continue where the Braves are the second worst offense, only worse than Detroit against left-handed pitching. That's just my opinion. I do not expect it there, despite what you've seen, and even, frankly, what the expected data might have shown based on the batted balls in play already. This Braves lineup should not be bad against left-handed pitching. We're talking league average at absolute worst, in my opinion, based on the individual components of the lineup. So for those reasons, I think that if you want to continue to bet the Braves here, especially at home at plus money against Robbie Ray, I think that there's absolutely no problem in doing it. That's just kind of my thought on it, though.
I'm with you. And again, I think the over is a play. It could be a contrarian day there. You are seeing, I think, Toronto's over in 8 of their last 10 games, which is a stark amount. So you could see like a contrarian under hit and it'd be some low scoring game, especially if the troubles for Atlanta continue against lefties. But, I think, like you said, Atlanta's due to take those numbers against lefties up more towards their expected average. And I think today could definitely be a day for that.
100% agree. And worth pointing out that it's, while Atlanta themselves doesn't have a positive VMI, I mean, it's very slight positive VMI. That's because they're used to playing in this awesome run scoring environment, right? With the weather. Air density is still very low, around 62, might pop into, it's a great spot for them. Overcast, 70 degrees, approaching 70% humidity. Overall, great hitting environment.
It should be. And, it's not like Bryce Wilson has the best record coming in for the Blue Jays either. So if I had to make a play, I'm probably taking the over on this one.
Yep. Over, and maybe for me, potentially the Atlanta Braves team total, depending on where it's sitting at. Okay, next game, St. Louis Cardinals and the Milwaukee Brewers. Kim versus Freddie Peralta. This one's going to be a very low total in Milwaukee. Cardinals plus 120, Brewers minus 130. What do you think about this one?
This was a stay off for me. I think both of these teams have a nice starter going out there today, and both Peralta and Kim have had good starts to the year. No one's really like stellar, but this is going to be probably like who's going to get lucky on where the ball off the bat goes tonight a little bit, and not so much like a huge edge for me to be able to say like this is the team I really like. I'm seeing that the market seems to like the Brewers. They have been a pretty good team. They also had a pretty rough week last week trying to score. So, I understand going with the home team. I probably stay off because I'm still afraid of road dogs from earlier this year. But yeah, I total pass for me.
Yeah, I think that, we're expecting Kim to be good. We know Freddie Peralta is going to be one of the better starting pitchers, especially there in that environment with the roof closed. The expected number eye-popping, I would say. Kim, 298 actual, 360 expected WOBA. Obviously great time to face a strikeout-heavy team like Milwaukee. Going to bring that number down just a little bit. But Peralta is really what's kind of standing out. He is going to be top 15 overall, and that's including all pitching, not just starters. His actual weighted on base average of 283 is 43 points higher than his expected. His expected weighted on base average against is 240 right now, and the expected slugging is 257. The expected slugging at 257 is absolutely ridiculous. The whole Milwaukee starting pitching staff, they seem to have found, I shouldn't say the whole, but a couple of them, particularly Corbin Burns, Freddie Peralta, they are most definitely onto something and not allowing the contact. Not going to fault you at all if you continue to ride that. We've seen some movement on the under, open 7.5, sitting at 7. That would kind of be my spot. But
I just read
also. Go ahead.
The Brewers are the lowest weighted runs at home are the worst in the league, bottom 10 in walk rate, and their WOBA and average are also bottom 10 at home. So, I think the under is the way to play this game if you had to take something here.
Yep, that's my thoughts on it exactly. Potentially strikeout props, but I haven't seen those numbers yet, so I can't give you any of that info for now. Twins and White Sox. Maeda versus Dylan Cease, plus 103 on the Twins. Let's see what William Hill's got on this one. Plus 105 for the Twins, minus 115 for the White Sox. Any thoughts here?
I like the under. I was able to grab it this morning at 8 right before it moved. I played it, posted it at under 7.5 because I still like it. I believe it was at like minus 105 this morning for the under 7.5, and it's already down 10 cents to minus, or up 10 cents to minus 115. So, this is actually one of my plays where the market's agreeing with me today. It's going to be very interesting to see which side of my plays work better, the ones the market likes and the one they don't. I like Kenta Maeda today. I think that he bounces back. He's a little bit of a rough time this year, but the White Sox are worse against righties. And, I saw that a really bad DMI today too, coming up and playing at home after playing at the Kansas City Stadium. So.
Yep, I agree with you completely on that one. I unfortunately missed it at 8. You are laying pretty significant juice already to get minus 7.5 now. Yeah. I think it could close at under 7, frankly. That's right around where I would have it. I could have a quarter unit play on it at the current spot in the market. I haven't done that yet, but I do like it. Dylan Cease has been really good in terms of expected weighted on base average, expected slugging percentage I believe around 320, well below league average. This one has under written all over it, especially if Maeda can find that strikeout ball again that he had in one of his most recent starts.
I agree.
Next, Angels and Astros. Ohtani on the mound against Lance McCullers. Angels plus 141 with Ohtani on the mound and in the lineup hitting. I believe he's going to hit in this game as well.
He's DHing?
I believe so.
That's fun. I love this kid. I think, I mean, personally, I love what he's doing for the sport. I think it's super exciting. I'm excited. I hope that more guys try to do what he's doing. Honestly, I really do. It's so cool. It makes me feel like I'm watching Babe Ruth. But regardless, he's actually, I believe, he lost his last start, and he's probably looking for a win. Both these teams have been shaky in terms of, keeping the totals low. Both teams have good offenses, and both teams have been letting up runs. I think that you probably take Houston here. I don't like the price. I wouldn't touch this team at -155. It's moved. It looks like it's moved about 10 cents this morning towards them. I think that the overplay is probably the move. It's definitely got to be the way to go. I mean, if you really wanted to play a money line or a spread, I'd probably recommend a first five play.
I think this might be one spot where we're a little disagreement, and I'll tell you why. There's a couple reasons.
Let me hear it, Mike. Let's see.
It has nothing to do with a side. I would not touch a side in this game. Mm-hmm. However, I would strongly consider taking the under at 8.5, getting plus money right now, plus 105. The reason for that, this game is in Houston. Expect the roof to be closed tonight. The roof should not be open. There's a chance of rain late in the game. It's going to be overcast there. I think that considering the fact that there is a chance of rain, they will close the roof. That is definitely going to neutralize some of the weather conditions pretty meaningfully there at that point. But both of these pitchers have been very good in terms of league average expected slugging percentage against. While it is terrifying to have so many big home run hitters in each lineup, frankly, I think that pitching can win out here. It's also terrifying betting overs and unders in Major League Baseball right now with the extra innings rules.
Yeah.
In a division game that is typically competitive. But if I had to play this game, it would be right now at the current number because I'm getting plus money at under 8.5. I have this game right at about 8 runs. That's the only play I would personally be making in this one.
It looks like it opened at 8.5 early this morning, or right when the lines dropped, and then went to 8 for a little while, and then it's come back to 8.5. It looks like it could honestly go to 9 with the juice that you have to lay on 8.5. Which that could be a play where maybe you sit around and you wait and you see, and if you can get 9, maybe you jump on it. I might do that myself. 9's probably a great number for the under. Just, if that roof's, you probably got to wait and see if that roof's open or closed. I mean, if for whatever reason they leave it open, I think you gotta feel the under. You gotta feel the over. Humidity is important. So, but look, happy to disagree. I don't have a play. It's just a lean. I guess tomorrow we'll reconvene and one of us can let the other one know who got it right.
Yes, we'll take some victory laps, or it'll close at 9. It'll hit 9, 5-4 game.
It'll push
for sure. But yeah, that's kind of my thought on it. I'm just taking a hard stance on the roof being closed.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one.
Roof being closed there is worth half a run. So
probably right.
That's my, it's what the science says is what I say, but remains to be seen. San Diego, Colorado game was postponed yesterday. We have more weather today, 42 degrees, light rain. I think they get this one in, but any thoughts here? -205 for the Padres.
I mean, immediate lean is I don't like laying -200 numbers on any MLB team. It's just almost like a principle type thing. Does that mean I would automatically go and play the Rockies? No. Do I think that they are much better at home? Obviously, yes. They are the team that is the most settled into the atmosphere in Colorado. They know what it's like to see pitches there. They know how to expect a breaking ball. It's important because this is the most drastic climate dynamic shift in all of baseball. Anyone going there compared to anything, it's this. And now, I've been picking on the Rockies away from home all year. It's done pretty well for me. This is a team that they have a winning record at home. They're 9-7 at home. So would I sprinkle a quarter unit if I really found the reason to like them today? Sure. Those are great numbers. And, Padres haven't been all that. They're a name brand team. They're, they had a bad week up until a couple of days ago. So I don't know. It's a pass, lean for the Rockies.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. It'd be a lean that way, but I would need probably 190 to 200 to like really want to play the
Yeah.
Rockies at that
And
number.
if we get it, I don't want it, right? Like if we can get there, then there's going to be a reason. It's probably going to be because like someone sits or because who knows, but it's probably not a play for me today.
Yep. Miami on the road at Arizona. Pablo Lopez versus Madison Bumgarner. This one is very close. Plus 101 for the Marlins, minus 111 for the Diamondbacks. Total sitting at 8. Any thoughts here?
You know, I think this could end up being a game that the Diamondbacks win. I feel like these teams have been playing a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like almost every day we're saying Diamondbacks and Marlins, and it's weird because I feel like they shouldn't be playing this much, but my guess is they probably don't see each other again for the rest of the season. I could look into it, but yeah, I know the VMI heavily favors Arizona here tonight. Could it be an Arizona team total overplay? Probably how I would play it if I had to. Miami's been tough to handicap. I mean, they have some young hurlers who just know how to throw, and then some nights they just hit it out of the park really well, and then other nights they're the Miami Marlins of old, and you're like, why did I put any money on this team? So that's, when you feel that way, that means they're high variance, and it's okay to feel that way, and I do feel that way, and so I'm probably not getting my money involved in Marlins games until I feel like I can handicap them successfully.
Yep, that's basically my thoughts exactly. I think the number's very efficient on it. I don't really have any interest in the game at all. Moving to the last game, Seattle at the Dodgers. We've got Kikuchi. How do you say his name? I don't even know how to say it. Yeah. I always mess that name up. Against Walker Buehler. Mariners, I believe, might have had a touch of movement. Plus 196, minus 216 on the Dodgers side. Total sitting at 7 runs. What do you think here?
Well, this is my big contrarian dog of the day. I posted the Mariners today. I am going with the massive underdog to continue to draw out the Dodgers' woes. The Dodgers have lost 6 straight series. 6. That's
a lot.
They probably didn't want to drop 6 series for the entire year is when they were going into their planning. This team is too good to be doing that. And when it continues to happen, there's a reason. I don't necessarily think they're just going to snap out of it and all of a sudden beat down the Mariners. Now, that percentage is cooked into this number. People clearly do have some reasonable expectation of that. I'm saying, okay, if we don't have that percentage in there and it's a close game, then why wouldn't you take plus 200 on this team? They've been one of the best road dogs in the league. I'm willing to take the shot. I have a full unit on it. If it wins, I'm going to look like a genius. And if it loses, I'm going to have to sit here and take it tomorrow, but I like my chances.
Yeah, I agree with you. We talked about the team being overvalued with New York Yankees. Same thing with the Dodgers. There's a good 2.5 to 3% baked into every single line of inflation with that team every time they play. That's going to create a source of value most of the time that they play by simply fading them. This is definitely one of those spots. Walker Buehler, 273 actual, 323 expected. That's a large 50-point delta in this one. His expected slugging percent against is approaching 500. He does get to pitch at home here, but I'm right there with you. I think an appropriate number in this game would be plus 180. Getting plus 200 is you're getting your 200. You're getting your 20 cents of value. Plus 180 is really the fair number. My model number is plus 186. It's about 10 cents of value. Probably should be a play for me. I knew that you had posted that one up. I haven't officially given that one out yet, but definitely on that side with you in the model.
I mean, you're seeing the splits. I mean, the Dodgers are hitting 211 against lefties this year. They've had, obviously, the sample size is usually a lot smaller for lefties just because of how the population works in baseball. But, still, you're seeing almost 140-point difference on the OPS with the splits. That's just not something you want to ignore. And, Kikuchi's a lefty. So, you know what? Let's take our chances. If it's going to be a game of this series, it's probably going to be this one. I think the Dodgers probably do right the ship and win the series, but again, they haven't been doing so, and so let's take a swing at it, because this is just too big of a price for me to ignore. 20 cents, like you said, is a home run.
Yep. And I've talked about it, and it probably gets annoying to hear if you consume all of the content out there, but I want to emphasize spots like this, especially early in the season, where a player, whether it's the pitcher or the team as a whole, is getting a league shift. So they're taking the league shift. I would much rather make life easier on my pitcher if I was the Mariners in this spot. Taking it to Dodger Stadium, going to be a friendly pitching environment, gets to face a designated hitter at the end. When you're talking about facing a designated hitter in a lineup as powerful as the Los Angeles Dodgers, sign me up for that. That's a meaningful boost for him. Just like why I like the Cubs a little against Bieber tonight as well. Giving that Cubs lineup a designated hitter, not forcing a pitcher to hit, something that I generally like. Again, for the Mariners here, I love the fact that when you're on the dog, I want that dog to get a chance to guarantee the at-bat in the ninth inning. That is a significant thing. So definitely like that for you. But always keep in mind when you're talking about not just park shifts, but overall league shifts, as it is something that is meaningful.
Definitely. I was about to say something that's always interested me is taking away teams on a team total over and taking home teams on a team total under, just in order to try to play into that extra half inning. It's important. Like, you just come on, like an inning, you only get 9 innings in a game, which means every frame of 3 outs is 11% of what you're able to do. So if you feel like a book hasn't cooked in that advantage, you can take it. And usually they don't. There's a lot out there for you to find value in. So, but big slate today. Hopefully it's a fun one.
Definitely. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll be back again tomorrow. I know we went super long today. We'll try to keep this around 30 to 40 minutes most days, but very big slates of 15 games. So appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll catch you all on Twitter, Discord. Everything's up on Sportsline as well. And we'll see you guys around.
See you.